Hello, Hasmo students. It's Mrs. A, and today we're going to learn all about Shabbat Hagadol. So are you wondering why this Shabbat is called Shabbat Hagadol? Let me tell you. It was in Egypt that Israel celebrated the very first Shabbat Hagadol on the 10th of Nisan, which will be tomorrow. It was 5 days before their redemption. As it is written, on the 10th of Nisan, the Bnei Israel, each man should take a lamb from each home.
So, Miss, basically, you're saying that this commandment was given to the Bnei Israel who were in Egypt? So how does that apply to us today?
That is such a great question. Let me explain. Many miracles were performed for the children of Israel on this first Shabbat Hagadol. The Torah commanded them to take their lambs and to tie them to the bedpost. When they did so, the Egyptian neighbors saw this and asked,
"What is this lamb for? What is this lamb for?"
Well, it's like this. It is to be slaughtered as a Pesach sacrifice, as Hashem has commanded us.
You see, students, the lamb was an Egyptian god. The Egyptians were very angry with the Bnei Israel. They wanted to shout and scream, but they couldn't utter a word of protest. Many other miracles as well were performed in connection with the Pesach offering. We therefore refer to this day as Shabbat Hagadol.
Another question. Why do we commemorate the miracle on the Shabbat before Passover, rather than on the 10th of Nisan? That's the date on which it actually took place.
Let me explain. It is because the miracle is closely connected to Shabbat. The Egyptians were aware that the Bnei Israel observed Shabbat and did not busy themselves tending to their animals on that day. So when the Egyptians saw them taking their lambs and binding them to their bedposts on Shabbat, they were surprised and decided to investigate what was happening.
What's happening? What's happening?
The Bnei Israel were in great danger when they confronted the Egyptians and were saved only by Hashem's goodness of a miracle. Therefore, as you see, my dear students, this is the reason we commemorate this miracle on Shabbat rather than on the 10th of Nisan. Our sages tell us that even an ignorant man may not tell lies on Shabbat. If it had not been Shabbat, the Bnei Israel would not have needed a miracle to save them. They would have been able to deceive the Egyptians by diverting their attention or making up some sort of an explanation. So, as we see, the Bnei Israel were endangering themselves because of their observance of Shabbat. They needed a miracle to save them. Okay, so now let's look at some of the customs that are observed on Shabbat Hagadol. Many communities recite special prayers during the Shachrit service on this Shabbat morning. The main themes of these prayers are the laws of Passover. These are presented in a verse format which makes it easier for us to understand the laws of the festival. We have been reading all winter long Tehillim 104 and 120 through 134. This Shabbat is the last time during the Shachrit Shabbat services that this Tehillim are said. We read part of the Haggadah beginning from the paragraph that begins Avodim Ainu until Lechaper Kol Avotenu. There are a couple of reasons for this. One is to familiarize the children with the contents of the Haggadah, and two, it is like a rehearsal for the Seder nights that help us become more familiar with the text. As far back as the days of the Tanaim and the Amoraim, it has been customary in communities that a Torah scholar or rabbi address the congregation, instructing them on the laws of Pesach. The purpose of the speech or sermon is to ensure that the congregants know how to prepare for Pesach, how to remove the chametz, and laws concerning the baking of matzot. Also, the rabbi's purpose is to ensure that people do not make mistakes in their observance of the holiday. It's common that he speaks to the hearts of the congregation on a specific topic of interest dealing with immediate issues of the time. Well, that's it for this week, students. All that is left is to wish you all a very good Shabbos.